Boom. Hello. Is anybody else on here? Oh, this is cool. That's pretty freaking cool, actually. Share screen. Boom. Boom. Hey, are you on? Actually, let me add you to this so I can hear you. Matter of fact, yeah, I'm gonna add you to here. What's your email? Oh no, never mind. Got it. Oh, I have 2 viewers. What does this do? Two people watching right now. I wonder how people can talk to me. They probably can. Did you get the invite yet? Yeah. What? I use, yeah, Rods at $1,000,000scholar.com. Give it a second. Check your spam. I'm gonna have to cut this video short. I mean, not short, but you still haven't gotten it yet? You said not? Hold on 1 second. Alright, so I'm about to. You have your Google Hangout message box open? Yeah, so check. Are you in now? Yep. Cool. Speak so I can hear you.
Yep.
Are you in now? Yeah, we speaking to the actual computer.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Are you in now?
You can't hear. I got my headphones.
Yeah, we speaking to the actual computer.
Oh, shoot. Oh, you put my headphones in and you. Is that better? Hello.
Hello?
Yep.
Hello? 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 Can people hear me?
You can see me, right?
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Hey, Roz.
Yeah.
Roz.
Yeah.
Thumbs up if you can hear me. Thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay, speak so I can hear you.
Yeah.
You can't hear me.
Yeah. You can hear me?
Let me see. Hello? Can you hear me? Now you speak. Let me see if I can hear you.
Hello.
Huh? I just connect me back to your phone. We'll just talk to the phone.
Okay.
And we'll record the video. Let me speak. Let me see if I can hear you.
Hello.
Hello? Alright, cool. Huh?
All right.
I just connect me back to your phone. Let's talk about arrays. Alright, so you remember what arrays are? Okay, where are they? Okay. How do we condense that? Mhm. Okay, cool. Yeah. So exactly as you just stated, an array is essentially a collection of values that are all the same data type, right? So if you have a list of names, you can have that be in a string array, right? An array of strings. If you have a list of grades or a list of numbers, that can be an integer array, an array of integers. Or if you have a bunch of Boolean values, those can be an array of Booleans, right? And it is ordered, so that means order matters, right? And how are they ordered? How do you identify each individual item within the array? Exactly. Okay, so we identify items within an array based off of their position called indexes. And what numbers, when you're ordering arrays, when you're identifying indexes, how are they ordered? Are they normally ordered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or are they ordered? Okay, 0. Awesome. So can you see that? How about now? How is it right now? right now we have students' names, right? What did we just do? We declared a, what type of array? Mhm. Yeah, people's names, right? So remember in our class, the last class um, we talked about creating empty variables. Oh, you don't remember that? So essentially, what we're doing right now on line 6 is we created an empty variable called student names, right? And the way that we know that this is an empty variable is because we have the keyword bar, we have the name of our variable, we have our colon, and then we have our type, right? Our type of value that's going to sit in this student names variable, right? So usually what we would do after this, we would do an equal sign and then the value, right? But essentially doing the assignment operator and then the value is declaring a variable with a preset value. But if we want to create a placeholder where we're not sure what the preset value is going to be, we can create an empty array by stopping after the type of data, the type of the value, right? So we have student names as a string type array. We have my age as an integer, right? This tells the computer that we're creating a variable, we're creating a space for memory. It's like a placeholder. And we're saying, okay, we know that we're going to use this later, but let's create the space just in case we don't know what we want to fill it with. So, no, that's not what the bracket implies. That's what the empty space out. That's empty space after integer means. So we have var age, for example, var age 1. Let's do it. Var my age 2. See the difference? Oh, there's a lag. Oh, damn. Got you, got you. So, but do you see the difference? Mhm. So how would I change the value of age 1 into a value? Because right now age 1 is an empty variable, but how do we change the value? Mhm. Yes. Well, not necessarily, because remember, even though we declared an empty variable, right, we didn't assign a value, we still declared a variable. So the same way that we would change a value in a variable that we created with a value will be the same way, right? Remember, we would identify the variable by name and then equal sign, and then 23. You understand that? Okay, so yeah, you remember? Exactly, exactly. So remember, keep this in mind. Whenever you declare a variable, in order for you to change the value, whether you gave it a value or not, all you need to do is access the variable by name and then assign its value. Exactly. Like, you don't need to redeclare it. There's no purpose in redeclaring it because you already created it. So let's just use what we created. And since we gave it a name, let's use what we created by accessing it by name. Then you essentially just changing the value. The equal sign will always means adding value or providing value. So I'm going to go ahead and run this code so we can see the changes. Oh, wait. I don't want to use before being initialized. So in oh, you told me. Let's see. But in Xcode, it would give you an empty variable. It would just be something. It would produce something like that, or like this. Show that it's empty, or doesn't contain a value, right? So let's do. We created a variable. We created an array variable, array of string variable, right? Let's create student ages, right? So essentially now, what is student ages going to do? What does that mean? But is it going to be one value or is it going to be multiple values? Why? Well, I mean, I could have just did that, right, to show one value. But remember, were you at the last class? Oh, you wasn't at the last class. Okay, got you. So essentially, you know how with strings, right? The way that we know that the computer knows that a string is going to be a string is based off of what? The quotation marks. Yeah, remember, anything within the quotation marks are considered string. So even if I put a number in the within the quotation, that will still be read as a string. It won't have the same characteristics as an integer, right? You won't be able to multiply them, but it will still be read as a string. So you can use it in text. So with that, because we know the quotation marks signify string. What signifies an array is the square brackets, right? So once the computer reads the keyword var, it knows it's creating a variable. Once it reads the once it reads the placeholder name, right, the variable name, it knows that it's creating a variable called student ages. Once it sees the semicolon, it knows that you're about to determine the type, right? You're about to explicitly declare the type of the value. And then following, if it sees square brackets, it will automatically know that you're trying to create an array within this variable, right? So then you determine the type of array by putting the type within the square brackets. So then the computer now reads it as, okay, creating a variable called student ages, and it's going to hold an array of integers, right? If I don't add the equal sign, then that means we're not providing the value now, we're providing the value later. But since we want to provide values in student ages, we use the assignment operator, right? So when a computer gets to the assignment operator, it knows that you're about to add a value or provide a value for this particular variable, right? So now that we know that square brackets signify an array, which can also signify a dictionary, how do you think we add the values? I'll give you a hint. The same way that the computer knows that you're about to create an array, it's the same way it knows you're about to provide an array of values. Exactly. You have your open and close brackets, right? But within those open and close brackets, this is when you start listing out your values. So we have 4, 6, 30, oh wait, got the comma. Okay, cool. So yeah, just watch me from the Google Hangout. So as you can see, the reason you don't have to have it on multiple lines. You can have it on one line, but just get in the habit of seeing it on multiple lines so you can actually see that it's a list of items. Have to. The comma means that you're adding another element. You see me adding another value. So right now we have variable student ages, which is going to be an array with integers. And our values within this array are 24, 26, 30, and 60. So these are our 4 values within this array. What do you think, what index is the value 30 located at? The second, exactly, because as we stated before, we start off with 0. Then we go to 1. We go to 2. And we go to 3. That just means comment. Like how we have it up here, that means the program is not going to look at this information. It's not going to look at this info. It's going to completely look over it. So let's run this program. All right, cool. So what we'll do is we'll print out student ages to the logs. Remember what the purpose of printing to the logs are? To see your values. Because remember, with this white space is your logs, which is exactly. See if you have errors and make sure stuff has values. Because without it, we won't be able to see any of this. Let me show you. So we ran the code, but we don't see any values. Because the program is running, but what we want to do is we want to see what it's actually doing. So in order for us to see what it's actually doing, is we need to call the print function. Boom. Now we can see our values, right? We see our student ages, and then we see our my age, 1 value. It literally just allows us to see what's going on with our code. Because we didn't print it to the logs. No, it's running everything. Right, so on line 23, let's print name, the value of name to the logs. So it's, as you can see, it's running everything, but you see how it printed out of order, right? So essentially, when your program is running, you don't see what is happening, right? Like when you open up your app, the only thing you see is what's displayed to you through the user interface. You don't know what information is being transferred on the back end, right? If you were building out your application and you wanted to ensure that the right information is being sent to the user interface, then what you would do is you would print the values at certain places, right? So if you're pulling in, if you have a function that runs when your app opens to pull in data from your data source, as you're coding it, you won't see what values are actually returned. So what you will want to do is you will want to print those values so you can see the values in your logs. Because then you know how to better access information or troubleshoot or debug. So keep that in mind. Whenever you want to see what's going on with your code, print the values to the screen, to the log. And all the logs are is this space right here. And Xcode is the space on the bottom. And the logs are very, very important, and they're very useful because it also displays to you your errors. If you see it, the logs will also produce errors and say, okay, error at line 7, marine types are now ran with the brackets around the element type. But as we can see, our error is actually here. Oh, we'll cover dictionary. We'll go over dictionary. So you see student ages here. So right now, it is printing 24, 26, 30, and 60. As we know, with all of the data types, they come with different characteristics or different ways to use them, right? So you know, with integers, you know, you can multiply them, you can divide them, add them, subtract them, right? You know, with strings, you can put them together to create more strings or a different string, right? Because remember, we were at one point doing first name, last name, and then putting the two strings together to create a full name, right? Remember that? So with arrays gives you a nice bit of power, right? It's very powerful because you can do a number of different things. If you wanted to, so what's the purpose of having a list if you can't add to the list or take away from the list? So what we're going to do now is we're going to add to the student ages list. And the way that we would add to the student ages list is by using an append function, using dot notation, right? And then append, and then whatever the value is. Bool doesn't allow you, it doesn't follow this function. And Xcode is append. Or do you have Xcode open? So let's open up Just open up documentation. You got your Xcode up? So as we can see, go to this documentation, which is at weheartswift.com. If we wanted to add an element to the end of the array, we would use the append function. So what I want you to do is create an array of integers, of 3 integers, and then add another integer. So create an array of 3 integers, and then print the value of that variable, right, of that array. And then after you print it, add another element to that array. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Man, I lost everything. Mm-hmm. A semicolon? Where is it? Can you type it in the chat? Wait, hold on 1 second. Hey, bro, let me call you right back. I'm in a session right now. I know. Hello? Yeah. Could you type it in the chat portion? Type it in the chat, in the group chat. Yeah. That's because you wrote it wrong. What are you missing in between your colon and your brackets? No, before that. You remember you got to declare the type. Well, if you wanted to, so you see on my line 6, you see how I just have the equal sign in the brackets? That's what's called implicit declaration. meaning that you don't assign the type. You allow your program to assume what the type is based off of what follows after the assignment operator. Exactly. So where's your next error in your student ages? Okay, yeah, so you need to add the equal sign, and then what else? You have semicolons. Remember, it's comma to separate values. Yeah. So practice creating some more arrays. Practice creating an array of strings. Practice creating an array of Booleans. Practice creating an array of integers. Right? So as you practice, what I want you to do is, because I'm about to head out so I can go home, what I would like for you to do is on the Slack, right? Send a screenshot of your code, right? Practice all the different types of variables. You know, practice them like almost for like 10 minutes. Just get the hang of declaring array variables, declaring their types, the types of the values, right? So now, one more thing before we go. We talked about append, right? Append allows you to add an item to the end of your array, right? So what we'll cover real quick is a quick introduction into dot notation. The purpose of dot notation is that it tells the computer that you're about to run a function that's associated with the type. Right? Remember what I said before? Each data type has their own set of characteristics, right? They can do different things based off of their type. With student ages, since it's an array of integers and it has an array type, it allows you to access the functions that it inherits from its parent class. So essentially, student ages can append items by using dot notation, right? So this is saying, okay, we're going to call student ages array using dot notation. That means we're going to identify a list of functions that this array can use to manipulate itself or to do something else, right? And then we would type the actual name of the function. So on Xcode, as you type, it should populate. It should auto-populate as you're typing APPEND. Does it do that? So you saw auto-populate? Right? So you don't have to worry about new element per se. You can go ahead and start typing, right? So we know that strings have quotation marks, and we know that if we want to do integers, we can just type in the number. So if you type in the number, what it would do is it's essentially saying we're using the append function and we're passing the value of 13 as a parameter in that function so that append can use that parameter to complete what it's trying to do, which is adding an element to the end of the array. So what I want you to do here, after you type in append whatever your value is, I want you to, the line before it, print the value of student ages. And then after you add or append 13, print the variable again. And what you'll notice is the difference. Print the values of student ages before you add, and then print the values of student ages after you add. You see the difference? What's the difference? Mm-hmm. So you should see 13 show up at the end of the string. Okay, well that's cool because our Xcode is going to do it that way, right? So we have the append function, which adds an element. What index do you think that new element that you just added would have? Zero, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So if I wanted to store that value, right, that we just added into a variable, how do you think we would do that? Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, so remember, if we wanted to access a value of a variable, what do? We call it by name, right? Remember that. We need to call it by name if we want to access, because essentially what we're doing to access the 13 that we just appended, we need to access the value of that array. Which is housed in that variable, right? So here we have student ages declared, right? So this is saying, okay, we're creating a variable that's going to hold an integer type value that's going to be called cool number. And what we're doing is going to equal student ages. But if we do this, essentially what this is saying is cool number is going to equal this array. But to access a specific index, we use our square brackets, because remember, square brackets identify that it's an array. And then to access our index, all we need to do is type in the number of the index. After you type in the, yeah, it's not going to read it for it. So after we did that, let's put that in the logs. What value will you get? Okay, now change that 4 into another index of your choice. Okay, what value does that print out for you? Perfect. And it's 14 in the second index. Perfect. So what we've done so far is we've learned how to declare array variables with different types, right? We learned how to add an element to an array. We learned how to identify the different values within an array by its index. And then we learned how to access the value of an array at a specific index, which is located on line 15 on mine. So with append, how do you think we have adding elements. So now there's a component of removing elements. How do you think we remove elements? Here's the hint, Google it. Google the question, how to remove item in an array. Switch. Your search should look like this. See that? On line 18. Follow that same thing and type it into Google. But you wouldn't use a pen because the reason why you wouldn't use a pen is because that's a function already. So you would have to replace a pen with remove. Oh, the dot notation. Say it again. Yep, follow that same exact syntax. What happened? Remove any one of them. What happened? You see it? Yep. So what I want you to do, I want you to practice all of this. I want you to practice declaring arrays, adding elements to arrays, accessing elements or values within an array by its index, and deleting stuff. I'll text it to you. No doubt, sir. No problem, man. Call me if you have any questions. And what you'll see in the Slack is that you'll have, I don't know what the code right now. You'll be able to use some of the different resources to do some more examples. So like we have a function called remove at index. So through the different resources, you'll be able to remove all and find other different functions that you can use. So play with it and then let me know how it comes.